Hello, everyone. This is Willie Elliott from the University of Michigan from the Center of Assets Education and Inclusion. And we're very excited to have you here. I want to start off by just saying thanks to all the panelists. Um, we have been really gracious with their time, helping us pull together the case studies, preparing for the presentations, and just for the work they're doing in their own communities, in their own states. Is tremendous, and hopefully will be a source of kind of reimagining kind of the power of CSAs and the possibility of CSAs in our own local communities. So very excited about having the panelists here, and really this is going to be a discussion from them and for them and by them. So be more focused on them than me. I did want to read something to you, which actually comes out of a case study, and then discuss it briefly before we start. It's a chance for me to get my nerd on, I guess. So I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to say a few things about it. Too often, policymakers, practitioners, and even academics have seen income and asset policies as being at odds with one another. And therefore, the question becomes which should come first, kind of the proverbial chicken or egg question. And because the symptoms of poverty, starvation, homelessness, lack of clothing appear most pressing, policymakers have usually decided that income policies must come first. Therefore, all too often, income policies are adopted and asset policies for the poor are put on the back shelf. So times when society beats back poverty, it only bounces back shortly thereafter. For example, research indicates that about half of families who get out of poverty will only fall back into poverty 5 years later. We continue to have cycles of poverty. Why we continue to have cycles of poverty is not a mystery. It is because we continue to treat the symptoms of poverty, but fail to prioritize treating its root cause. We limit opportunity. It means with limited opportunity, it means that even if children have food, clothing, and shelter, they remain opportunity poor. That is, they do not have the assets they need to augment, to augment their effort and ability so that they can reach their full potential. However, Mayor Carter and the city of St. Paul have been on the frontier of combining income and asset strategies into a single approach for eliminating the symptoms of poverty, while simultaneously attacking its root cause. In doing so, they have recognized that poverty at its root is an opportunity problem. And I do think that's a different way of thinking about how we define poverty, because when we think of poverty, we really do, a lot of people really do anyhow. And the way it's talked about is this homelessness, lack of shelter, and these kind of things. But at its root, it's an opportunity problem. We are not trying to diminish the importance of income or to suggest putting off implementing income policies. The income or assets debate is not a chicken or egg question. Income is important because anyone who has been sick before knows the symptoms associated with a cold virus, for example, are often what keep them from being able to get done what they need to on a day-to-day basis, or at least make it much tougher. Therefore, treating them is essential to children being able to more easily direct their energy toward building surplus, that is assets, to support their future potential selves. That is, it allows children to put less of their effort into figuring out how they will feed themselves today, focusing on income in the present, and more into how they will make their futures better, i.e. focusing on the assets in the future. In the next section, I don't have to read that part. So the basic point there is that we have this, when we think about poverty, and it has been raised to me like, well, we should be talking about wealth inequality and these kind of things. I don't think they're disconnected in some ways. If we understand poverty to be an opportunity crisis or an opportunity problem, then we can understand how assets are required and wealth inequality is linked to this opportunity issue as well. Like they're not unrelated, they're very related, even though we treat them as very separate things. It really is about how do we provide children with the kinds of opportunities that will allow them to reach their full potential. And if they can reach their full potential, not only are we able to help them eat today and clothe, we help them from continuing to fall into poverty. And assets are just extremely important from that. And hopefully we can see how it's important to kind of think about these policies in conjunction with one another. If we think about them as kind of treating the symptoms, the things that we see that alarm us, in that have practical things with kids being able to do what they're supposed to do, but then also that really the bad, the thing that the root of poverty is that lack of opportunity, and the role that assets play in helping children have kind of a true opportunity to succeed in life. How it augments their effort and ability, it helps them to achieve that they could not achieve without assets. And so we really need to start thinking about how these policies fit together. I will say one more thing and then I'll stop. And that comes out of the fourth case study, which you have not received yet. And hopefully we'll have that out today or tomorrow to you. And then there's one more case study that we haven't yet got out. And hopefully that will be out in the next week as well, maybe next week sometime at the earliest. But we're still working to get that together. Like I said, it's been a push for all of us to get these together. I hope that you'll think about them as a package, and that you won't focus explicitly on what the programs are doing themselves, but let them, ignite your own imagination on where we can find different asset streams that can flow into these accounts, taken from what they've done, but then also building on what they've done. And hopefully they also, as they hear other programs, what they're doing, will build on their own programs. We have just begun to tap into kind of the power of CSAs in a very, very small way. But as we explore these asset streams, I think we'll unleash the kind of true power of these accounts and the true potential of these accounts. So I'll stop there. We have Carl Rist today, who's going to moderate this panel and discussion. So very excited to have Carl here. Carl is, Prosperity Now, way before that, CFED. He's been in the field for years. Now he's working with Mott some. So just very excited to have him here to participate. He's got some great questions and is quite aware of kind of what's going on in the field. I'm sure he'll be able to lead this quite well. So Carl.
Thanks, Willie, for the introduction and for those important framing comments. Thanks for bringing us all together for such an important conversation about CSAs and these kind of new and innovative asset streams as you described them in your paper. Again, my name is Carl Rist, consultant with the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
I like a little free flowing, so I know this is totally inappropriate, but I'm going to ask you, can you remember me and you a couple years ago, you pulled together a list of different programs and kind of how we're innovating on the different asset streams, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah, right. That was just kind of a sort of just on the spur of the moment, right? I think you asked me that.
Yeah. And we never really, this is the end product of that.
Oh, good. That's really good. I didn't even know that. That's even better. Well, thanks for mentioning that. So as moderator today, my role mostly is to set things up for the expert panelists. So let me just introduce them quickly here in the order they will speak. So first, we're going to have Ann DeCecco, who is the Keystone Scholars Program Director in the Pennsylvania State Treasury. Thanks for being here, Ann. Following Ann, we'll have Patty Grant, who's the Executive Director of the Community Foundation of Wabash County. The third speaker will be Vina Pawlowski, the Chief Program Officer at the Oakland Promise. Following Vina will be Deborah Ellen Glickstein, the Founding Executive Director of New York City Kids Rise. And then finally, rounding out the panel will be Ikram Kaliso, the CollegeBound Program Manager in the Office of Financial Empowerment at the City of St. Paul. You'll find more detail on each of these speakers on the PowerPoint deck as each of them steps up to speak. I've asked each speaker to do a brief 10-minute presentation with some basic information about their CSA program, some specific detail on their particular asset stream innovations, and then finally a little about why they developed these asset stream innovations. At the end of the presentations, we should have about 30 minutes for a robust Q&A session, and then we plan to end by 3:45. If you have questions during the presentations, and I think there were just note about this in the chat, just please do one of two things. Either make a note of them and wait it and hold them until the chat, or if you'd like, just put them into the chat. Megan's going to monitor that, and we'll be able to come back to those questions during the Q&A. So before we begin, let me just pause for a moment to see if there are any questions, either among the panelists or in the chat. I don't think I see anything. So yeah. So hearing none, let me turn it over to Ann DeCecco from the Keystone Scholars Program in Pennsylvania. Ann, thanks for being here.
So good afternoon. Thank you to Willie and AEDI for hosting this event and inviting me to speak, and to the Mott Foundation and to Carl for moderating, and also the other panelists. It's an honor to present with programs that are doing such incredible work. I'm Ann DeCecco. I'm the director of Pennsylvania's Children's Savings Account Program, Keystone Scholars. Today, I'll tell you about two initiatives the Keystone Scholars Program has undergone to provide additional deposits to children from low-income families in PA. But first, I'll give you a brief overview of the program as a whole. So Keystone Scholars is the first statewide CSA program to be established through law. It is universal, opt-out, and it starts at birth. The program started in January 2019, providing every baby born to a Pennsylvania resident a $100 starter deposit for post-secondary education. The program uses no taxpayer money. The funds come from surplus earnings on the PA 529 Guaranteed Savings Plan and are invested by Treasury in an omnibus account within that plan. The accounts get an investment return that is tied to tuition inflation. Keystone Scholars funds can be used when the child turns 18 up until age 29 for technical or career school, 2- or 4-year college, and also apprenticeships. Each month, the Department of Health sends Treasury a data file with all the new births in the state, which allows us to establish and fund the accounts. We then send a letter to the family about 4 to 5 months after birth, encouraging them to log in and register their account. Also, because it's part of the 529 program, families can open and contribute to their own PA 529 account and can link it to their Keystone Scholars account so they can see all their education savings in one place. We have 3 key goals with the Keystone Scholars program based on CSA research and best practices. The first is to help parents maintain high expectations for their child's future education. The second is to cultivate a CollegeBound, or what we like to call at Treasury, future-focused identity in children. And the third is to prompt parents to start saving as early as possible. And as Willie talks about in his main paper, we think it's important that families can participate in the building of their savings and engage with the account in order to activate the college-going expectations early. So we are less focused on the amount families can save, and in fact have made changes to the PA 529 plans to make it easier to participate with as little as $1 at a time. So these numbers are as of the end of last year in 2022. In total, we now have about 500,000 funded accounts. Overall, about 10% of those families have gone online to view and register the account. Registration is not required, but we encourage it because it is the key signal to us that families are aware of the account and that they're thinking about the future. I've also pulled out here the 2019 birth year cohort. That's the oldest children in the program to date. And just to show that the registration rate is going up over time as more families hear about the program. As you can see, for this oldest cohort, the registration rate is 14.3%. And we have a specific focus on spreading awareness of the program among low-income families. The files we receive from the Department of Health do not include any data on family income. The closest indicator that signals to us that a family is living on a low income is if the mother was enrolled at the time of birth in the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, otherwise known as WIC. To qualify for WIC in Pennsylvania, the family must be at or below 185% of the federal poverty level. So we use this data point on the birth records as a proxy indicator that the family is living on a low income. As you can see, the registration rate among families where the mother was enrolled in WIC at birth are much lower than the overall rates. 6.9% for all children born since 2019 and 8.7% for the oldest cohort. So we monitor these numbers and seek to increase them over time. Since the program's beginning, additional targeted deposits have been envisioned to bolster the accounts of children from low-income families. As researchers have written extensively, this is a key best practice for CSAs to help narrow the gap between advantaged and disadvantaged children. So now I'll get into the first of our targeted deposit initiatives. In 2021, we created the Bright Future Booster. It was a $50 deposit automatically provided to all Pennsylvania children born January 1st through June 30th of 2021 to mothers enrolled in WIC. And it came in addition to the universal $100 Keystone Scholars starter deposit. It was funded by several philanthropic donors, and this is why it was provided for a limited duration. We had funding to cover just the amount of births during the first 6 months of the year. We hope at some point to secure a funding stream that would make the Bright Future Booster a permanent fixture of the Keystone Scholars program. And though it was a modest additional deposit, it represented an important step in building on to the Keystone Scholars program in a way that addresses existing inequities. Through it, we were able to demonstrate that the Keystone Scholars program has the means to operationalize an automatic targeted deposit like this at scale. We partnered closely with the state WIC department to get information and tailored materials out to all 24 local WIC agencies in the state, which were key in spreading awareness among families. The Department of Health WIC department actually came up with this tagline here that you see on the left in the social media infographic. It says, "From nutrition education to college graduation." Text blasts and other outreach by WIC agencies were also effective in building awareness. So the Bright Future Booster initiative demonstrated that additional funds targeted specifically for low-income children could be deposited automatically and at scale. And to our knowledge, that this is the first time this has been done by a large statewide program. Increased awareness among low-income families was a direct result of a deepened relationship between Treasury and the state Department of Health's WIC program, as well as local WIC agencies and other partner organizations. In some of the preliminary analysis we have, it was found that among children born in the first half of 2021 to mothers enrolled in WIC, so otherwise, i.e. the Bright Future Booster recipients, the number of PA529 accounts open in the first 6 months of life increased by 34% compared to those born to WIC participant mothers in the first half of 2020. And among those who opened accounts, they also contributed to them at least 1.6 times on average in the year, with median annual contributions of $300. Now I'll tell you about the second targeted deposit initiative we have, which is still ongoing. In collaboration with one donor, the Henry L. Hillman Foundation, and Adagio Health, a WIC agency that serves 5 counties in southwestern Pennsylvania, we developed a milestone program to promote continued participation of children in WIC as long as they're eligible. You may know the WIC program is available to children ages 0 to 5, but enrollment tends to drop off after age 1. So many kids who could benefit from it are not receiving it. This initiative will hopefully encourage families to stay enrolled not only for the WIC benefits, but also for the additional education savings. We are making additional deposits into these children's Keystone Scholars accounts each year that the participant qualifies for and remains in the WIC program through Adagio Health, so up until their 5th birthday. The total that a participant can receive, including the starter deposit, is $525. Adagio works with all of their mothers of newborns to assist them in registering their Keystone account, and we also have outreach staff that hold visiting hours periodically at the different Adagio Health sites in order to provide assistance. We hope to replicate this program in other parts of the state. We want to encourage other partners to do similar initiatives to get more deposits into the accounts of kids in their communities. So to wrap things up, I'll just say that the Keystone Scholars program was designed for additional funds to be added in from other sources. In fact, the authorizing law for Keystone Scholars specifically states that this is allowable. So we really see the $100 Keystone Scholars deposit as a starter or a seed deposit. It's meant to be just the start of assets flowing into the accounts from other sources. We think the statewide infrastructure of the PA529 with its centralized record keeping and oversight is well suited to empower local organizations with the appropriate funding to focus on the services they deliver well and also add additional deposits to targeted communities. So with that, I thank you and look forward to questions and comments after the panel.
Great. Thanks so much, Ann. Really appreciate that presentation. We look forward to question and answers with you at the end. Our next speaker now will be Patty Grant from the Community Foundation of Wabash County. So Patty, take it away.
Great, thank you. I too want to thank Carl and recognize the Mott Foundation, which has been very generous with our program. And thank you, Dr. Elliott, for bringing us all together. I know that we learn more when we work together, and I appreciate all the effort that you and Megan have put into this effort. Our program is a little bit different in terms of a CSA. The model that we are developing is about innovating an alternative method for delivering post-secondary education and scholarships. The model provides a platform, the CSA, for students and families to engage in children's savings accounts in a manner that is not dependent on family savings. Students and families engage in their CSA by the students in-school engagement with their in-school work. Here's how the program works. Parents enroll their students in a 529 plan. Indiana's plan is called the College Choice. Parents need to sign a participation agreement with the Community Foundation of Wabash County. The participation agreement allows teachers in our public schools to inform the Community Foundation if a student has completed their in-school work. That's a binary answer, either yes, they did complete the work, or no, they did not. Students in grades 4 through 8 earn awards every academic quarter. They can earn awards or early scholarships by small savings. They earn scholarships by learning, that is completing 100% of their in-school work at a 70% proficiency. And they also earn scholarships by completing activities related to post-secondary preparedness. Awards are accumulated in the student's unique Community Foundation Early Award Scholarship Fund. They're available to the student up to age 26 for education beyond high school. Drilling down just a little bit further, we wanted to show you the details of the scholarships. This is an excerpt from a very busy schedule that actually shows the scholarships that can be earned for grades 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we've shown only 4 and 8 here. On the left is the activity, and on the right is the amount of the scholarship a student can earn each quarter. We wanted to share that and to point out a few things. It's important to note that we award behaviors that our teachers told us led to learning and in-school success. So rather than providing a $20 scholarship for a test score at the end of the year, we award a scholarship in an early award scholarship fund. Each quarter, a student practices the behavior that leads to learning. And by the way, those behaviors are the ones that were recommended to us by our teachers in public schools. You can see in 4th grade, when a student completes 100% of their reading assignments at a 70% proficiency in each of the 4 quarters of school, they earn $20 into their early award scholarship fund. Fast forward to 8th grade, and by this time we've shifted our focus from incentives from awarding learning behaviors to awarding completion of college prep activities, such as completing the college cost estimator, or writing a college essay, or looking at lifetime earnings related to educational attainment. The last thing we want to point out is that through the students' efforts, they can earn up to $100 or $1,000 by the end of the 5-year program. Again, that money then is invested in age-based portfolios and available to the student up to age 26. Another important component of our program is the communications with parents. We believe that in order for assets to change how children think about the future, they have to know they have them. So we take every opportunity to communicate with our students and families that they are earning educational scholarships for post-secondary education. On the left, you can see this is a progress report, which goes home in the book bag every quarter. This one happens to be for a 4th grade student, and it is at the end of the year. And you can see that this student has earned $220 through his efforts. You also can see that there is a savings match. It's a small part of the awards that we're making. On the right is the Students' Early Award Scholarship Fund statement at the Community Foundation. This is mailed to the parents twice a year. It's also available to the family online through the Community Foundation's website. And here you can see what the beginning balance of the school year of the year was, the investment activity, the scholarships that they earned, and the savings match for an ending balance. The Community Foundation has a long history in awarding traditional scholarships. We often mused it would be wonderful to be able to give a fourth grader or a third grader a scholarship, but we failed to have a platform in order to do so. While traditional scholarships do help many people, we also appreciate that they have some limitations. We believe traditional scholarships have a limited ability to incentivize early learning in school. They're simply too far away for a third grader or a fourth grader. Traditional scholarships have a limited ability to shape identity and to shape parental expectations. And lastly, and unfortunately, we believe that all too often, traditional scholarships fail to help students in low-income families, because we find that it is the students from low-income families who are not applying for our traditional scholarships, having decided at a very young age that education was not attainable or accessible for them. The program is funded by the Charles Stewart Mott Foundation. The Community Foundation uses some of its own discretionary funds to take care of the program. We also have repurposed our traditional scholarships, again, finding that we believe that we can impact the same children in a more impactful way by awarding the scholarships early into the scholarship funds. And lastly, we have been generously supported by donations from local citizens. How effective are early award scholarships? We're very grateful for Dr. Elliott and his work. As a result of his research, preliminary findings are showing that participants in the Early Award Scholarship Program are scoring higher on Indiana's standardized tests. They also have improved attendance compared to non-participants. Participants in the Early Award Scholarship Program are predicted to have a stronger college-bound identity. Our participants have improved social and emotional skills and health that are needed to succeed in school. And our families that are participating in the Early Award Scholarship save more and save more often. Dr. Elliott finds that the impact of the Early Award Scholarship Program is most significant from students in low-income families. That is our program, and I'm eager to hear your questions. I do want to add that I think the Community Foundation makes a perfect partner for CSAs. Long ago, we had prioritized educational attainment, and our position in working with both the schools and traditional scholarships, as well as our access to donors, makes us an ideal partner to build out children's savings accounts. Thank you again, Dr. Elliott.
Well, agreed, Patty. You've been an amazing partner on CSAs. Thanks for your good work. And thanks as always for the incredibly clear presentation and the incredibly well thought out program. So, and also the great results. So thanks, Patty.
Thank you.
Sure. Our third speaker now is going to be Vina Poloski from Oakland Promise. Vina, take it away.
Thanks, Carl, and good to be here with everybody. I am going to pull up presentation, and like the previous speakers, I'm grateful to be here with Carl. Thank you for facilitating and moderating, and the Mott Foundation for supporting the work, and for Dr. Elliott and Megan and the team for putting together all of the case studies in our webinar today. So my name is Vina Poloski, and I'm the Chief Program Officer here at Oakland Promise. And I'll be sharing more about what we're doing here in Oakland, here at Oakland Promise. So what can you expect during our presentation? I'll talk about kind of what our North Star is, give a brief history of Oakland Promise, talk about our different programs that we have, focus really on the what around our scholarship programming throughout our Cradle to Career program, and talk about our reach if we get to it, as well as other initiatives that we have at Oakland Promise. So North Star mission and vision really is to create a thriving Oakland community without educational barriers to opportunity. And how we do that is engaging the Oakland community to advance equity and economic mobility through Cradle to college and career achievement. So kind of just some highlights since we started in 2016. We have college savings accounts supports that we do that you'll hear more about, but we've had around 2,000 families that we've supported to date, about 35,000 kindergartners who have received our early college scholarship, and about 18.5 million scholarships awarded to graduating seniors. So we have different programs across Cradle to Career. And again, I'll dive more into the scholarship specific component shortly, but want to give a little bit of context on our program and history before we do that. So a brief history about Oakland Promise. We launched in 2016, really with the mayor's office, OUSD, which is Oakland Unified School District, the superintendent, city council, and an organization called East Bay College Fund, really coming together to form Oakland Promise, thinking about how do we actually increase our post-secondary completion rate for our students in Oakland, so they are graduating within 6 years. And in 2019, we merged with East Bay College Fund and officially became, so initially we were part of the mayor's office and then became really our own 501c3, hired our first CEO and joined with East Bay College Fund, which essentially became the last arm of our program supports. And we brought that in-house. And this past year, as of December, we were selected to be the Children's Initiative recipient, which essentially allows us to create a sustainable stream of funding, of public funding to support this work. So it'll fund about 65% of our annual operating budget, with an opportunity to renew every 5 years for up to 30 years. So when we talk about keeping the promise and sustaining the work, this is an incredible milestone for us. So an overview of our programs, we have first our Brilliant Baby program, then our Kindergarten to College program, next our College Access, and then College Scholarships and Completion. So we have 4 different programs under Oakland Promise that we operate. And just a little bit more about each program. So in our Brilliant Baby program, that is our 0 to 5-year-old component. Key elements of the program include we give Medi-Cal eligible families, so our low-income families, $500, open a $500 college savings account for them. And families who have a baby from 0 to 1 year old are eligible for that. And as part of the program, you're eligible for financial coaching for up to 6 sessions. The first 3 of which are incentivized, and we give families a stipend to pay and use on whatever they would like. In addition is the programming of community events, so something called Community Connections, in which families come together and talk about academic or financial topics, and then supporting with the school enrollment process into pre-K. Impact, one of our impact measures or that you see here is that we've had over 1,400 Brilliant Baby families who have enrolled in Oakland Promise as part of Brilliant Baby. Next, in our Kindergarten to College program, the key elements are the Oakland Promise Scholarship that we began to give to kindergartners. So that's $100 for all of our kindergartners in Oakland at an Oakland public school. So that's including district and charter schools. We give $1,000 innovation grant is what we called it, to create that college and career bound identity within our students. So we give that to each school in Oakland, and there are about 57 public elementary schools in Oakland. We have a $75 incentive to open a family-owned CSA, and then we do a number of program elements, including college visits. Impact to date, 35,000 kindergartners have been awarded those early college scholarships. College access component is our grades 6 through 12, and the key elements include awarding scholarship, post-secondary planning for workshops for families and students, FAFSA and DREAM Act app completion, and innovation grant. And we're this year, amazingly, we're in the process of currently awarding 900 scholarships to our Oakland Public School students. And then our college completion program, this is really managing our scholarship distribution, and we do advising, coaching, and mentoring. Mentoring, we actually source volunteers who are in professional fields who have a college degree who actually mentor our students, and are building out our workforce development supports. And our first cohort that started with us as freshmen in 2016, and within 6 years, so that was 2022, we finally were able to get data, persistence data, as well as post-secondary completion data. And 52.5% of students who started with us have obtained a bachelor's or associate degree, compared to our county data, which is 38%. And let's see, now to dig into just the portfolio of funds in which we're talking about here is we, as part of the merger with East Bay College Fund and merging our programs, we had a number of things that we needed to solve for, which is we were giving these early college scholarships, but also awarding 12th grade scholarships. So we need to figure out a way to connect those. We wanted to strengthen our college and career bound identity work by giving scholarship dollars earlier. And then we also, wanted to continue to provide scholarship access to the entire community, but really focus our resources within our low-income students and families and scholars. So as part of that, we developed this Oakland Promise scholarship portfolio of funds. And so what you see here is our best attempt at trying to explain this scholarship portfolio of funds, which we know is a little bit involved and complicated. So what you see here is for our Brilliant Baby families, they get the $500 college savings account. And our first cohort of kindergartners, which started with this in 2016, are now in 6th grade. So that's why you don't see this part of that programming realized. But eventually, when our 6th graders graduate high school and enroll in post-secondary, which the majority of them will do in 2029, we'll see this plan kind of fully realized, but essentially giving $100 at these key milestones, which we thought about in the transition years. So 5, 6 to middle school, 8, 9 to high school, these milestone amounts being distributed. And then when they get to 12th grade, it's really looking at income eligibility to get additional funding. And then we also support families with opening up their own family-owned college savings account, which includes students and families who are in part of transitional kindergarten or TK, which is a system we have here in California. And this is an opportunity and a space for families to be able to contribute their own money and funding. Just highlight quickly, I think I might be at time, just to highlight some other initiatives. Is around impact policy and capacity building. So we have a longitudinal study right now that has been following our Brilliant Baby families and have very promising results there around reducing financial stress and more. We're a part of a number of these kind of coalitions and organizations, to name a few, and have been part of supporting scholarship displacement acts and ensuring that scholarship displacement isn't happening, and then really deepening our work with our Oakland community. So we have a pilot program going on here within our East Oakland neighborhood specifically, and we really couldn't do it without partnering with our key leaders in the city and beyond. So that's a little bit about Oakland Promise. So thank you for listening, and excited to hear the conversation and questions after.
Thanks, Vina. It's just an amazing vision you all have with the Oakland Promise, and also, impressive public funding to sustain your work. So congrats on that, and also on your early results with that first cohort of students. So thank you so much. Next up is Deborah Ellen Glickstein, who's the founding director of New York City Kids Rise.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Carl. Thanks so much for having me. Dr. Elliott, thank you for having me. Thank you for everyone who's involved with this. I'm just hearing from
fellow practitioners across this country is totally mind-blowing. It is so impressive. And whenever I have the opportunity to speak anywhere, I like to just thank all those from the CSA community who came long before New York City started doing this at scale. We have learned so much from so many in this field, and we stand on all of y'all's shoulders. And I see some folks who are in the audience here who have been key to this movement, and I just want to express that gratitude. So what I'm going to try to do here in the next 9 minutes or so is talk about one of my all-time favorite things, which is the decentralized, universal, community-driven wealth-building platform for New York City neighborhoods that is the Save for College program. I'm going to give you a little bit of context where we are right now in terms of our coverage, and then we're going to hear from some of the folks who really created this with us alongside, and then talk really about a few of the community scholarships and how the platform works. So just for a little bit of context, we launched the Save for College program in 2017 in one of the most diverse school districts in the country, in a part of Queens, School District 30. We did this thanks to the Gray Foundation, as well as partners in the city and the Department of Education. For context, there's about 3,000 students a year that start kindergarten there. And we are now celebrating our 6th year across these 39 schools in that community. And that means that every kid in elementary school in School District 30 now has an account for a college or career. 2 years ago, thanks to the tremendous support of so many folks, we have been able to scale this across the entire city of New York City, which means that each year there are now around new 70,000 students joining into this platform. So as of today, there's about 145,000 students across the entire city, and that includes nearly every kindergartner and first grader across more than 1,000 schools. And so there has been a lot of growth very quickly. And so what the main kind of thing that I'd love for this audience to really take away from kind of everything I'm going to say is that from the onset, this has always been about community wealth building and individual wealth building. It is about a platform, and that it is a recognition that different institutions within communities will either reinforce or destroy expectations of what's possible for their students, for our students, and that it requires this expectations, the reinforcement, and it also really requires money. And so that is, each entity has a role to play. And what I want to do right now is show a quick video where we're going to hear from a few of these stakeholders.
I have 2 kids in this program in Kids Rise, first grade and third grader. And the third grader, he knows that I participated to this program for him. This is his money for his college. He told me that I know that this is my money. This program is good for me because I told him this is for you. You're gonna have them in your college. So you don't have to worry a little bit. Sometimes we log in to see how much is his money is going up or down, it depends. So it's a big opportunity. That's why I feel like all the families should apply for this program because it's so good.
We wanted to make sure that we were reaching our audience, you know. One of our leaders, Flaviana, spoke about the importance of how do we talk to the membership about this program so that they're not in fear because of their status, right? All the feedback that our members were giving, to me, it represents community. By having the feedback that they were giving, putting into the materials that they were also going to use to do the outreach and to talk to folks about this amazing program, I think it was just full circle, the leadership development, the listening, all of us working collectively to make that happen.
We were very strategic about the steps we took to integrate the Save for College program. We wanted it to permeate all aspects of the community and all stakeholders. So of course we started with the teachers first. We started with professional learning, getting the teachers understanding the building blocks and how to get their parents to sign on. We want to thank Save a College for also offering professional learning. Then we branched out with our parent coordinator, our school secretary, and then we had enough staff acclimated with the program to bring it out to the families. And that was the exciting part, getting the families to understand that their children were actually going to get money, funding to attend college, and making it part of the school family. So once we start with our internal staff and stakeholders, and then we bring it outwardly to the community, that way it becomes part of the entire fabric of the school.
We came up with the idea to increase the counts of the children in Astoria houses, and we came up with $1,000. We wanted to put $1,000 in each one of those 134 children's accounts. And on the steps of faith, we launched it, and we launched it under the Astoria Tennis Association, and it's just been amazing. We put in place for them at an early age, and they will know that there are funds and the accounts are being built. So that'll give them the strength and the courage to make good decisions as far as their future is concerned in education.
Great. So here you heard from a parent, a community-based organization, a school principal, and a tenant leader, just giving you a taste of the interdependency and the roles within a specific geography. Just some basics to level set regarding the details of how this operates, as my other colleagues have shared. Every kid gets an initial $100. They get that unless they decide that the family decides they don't want it. Families can then take additional steps to earn additional rewards by activating and viewing their accounts up to another $200. That goes into the NYC scholarship account. All philanthropy, all that initial seed, and all community scholarships goes into that account. Families can also open up their own account and are able to save in the ways that they make sense for them and choose their own product that makes sense for them. And then the third very important part of this, what I call the capital stack, is this concept of community scholarships and the idea that different institutions, different systems, and different other stakeholders can add more money into sets of students' accounts across the city. So here you have sort of just a demonstration here of kind of the overall model at work. And I'm happy to take any questions that may come up. I will talk a little bit now about some specific community scholarships. And again, the idea from the beginning has to create a platform so that different pieces can be layered. When everyone across the entire city of New York in public schools gets the initial $100 and can earn those additional rewards, we have built in from the beginning a mechanism so that we can be very progressive, so that particularly for communities and students who have historically been excluded from wealth building opportunities are able to amass more money over time. And that is not dependent on how much money individual families are able to save for themselves. So here is an example of, again, what I call this capital stack. You have an example where you have the initial scholarship and the rewards that one family has earned, a third grader who lives in Astoria houses. It's Miss Koger, who was the last person you saw on that video. She talked about a campaign that she led with her tenant association board, the leaders of Astoria public houses, where the average income is around $22,000 a year. They led a campaign to raise an additional $1,000 for every student who lives in Astoria houses. That's an example of that an entity can kind of use this platform in a way that works for their community. And so you can see in this case that there is, under the community scholarship, you see the Astoria Houses community scholarship piece. You see also two other community scholarships here, the Concert for College and Seamless Donate the Change. Those were other very specific campaigns that other entities and worked with us to do to add more money. And so here you have a situation where this third grader has nearly $1,600 and they're only in third grade. Jackie, I think we can cut the slides now. I will just highlight one more community scholarship. And what we're doing is we're putting all this material and information in the chat so folks can read more about some of the specifics. Another community scholarship I want to highlight is we recently worked with Bloomberg Philanthropies and the Brooklyn Community Foundation. Brooklyn Philanthropies Greenwood Initiative. They are focused on like accelerating Black wealth. So they work with us to identify the highest percentage, the highest district with the highest percentage of Black students in New York City. And we worked with them. They gave $1 million. Brooklyn Community Foundation came in with another $200,000. So now every kid in that whole school district in first grade got an additional $1,000, and more came from that, but I can certainly address that in the Q&A. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Deborah. That was great. And thanks for bringing in those stories. That was amazing. Also, congrats on your 6 years and actually expanding this thing citywide, which in New York City is no small deal, right? So you've done a great job. I love the capital stack sort of concept. And I know you've been talking about this blending of sort of individual and community wealth since the beginning. So you've definitely nailed that notion. So thanks for sharing. Finally, rounding out the panel, we've got Ikram Kaliso from St. Paul. So Ikram, come on. Hey, how you doing, Ikram?
Hello. All right, just pulling up the PowerPoint. There you go. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. So my name is Ikram Kaliso. I'm with Office of Financial Empowerment at the City of St. Paul, where CollegeBound St. Paul is administered out of. Just want to take a moment to say thank you for Carl for your facilitation, and then also Dr. Elliott and the team for bringing us together. We're always excited to share more about CollegeBound St. Paul and what we've got going on, and then also even more importantly, learning and hearing about some of the other great work happening around the nation. So about CollegeBound St. Paul, we are a program that launched on January 1st of 2020. It was a program that was really designed by the community. We had a task force of over 50 folks from cross-sector stakeholders as well as community members that came together to design every single element of the program in the second half of 2018. And through that, we did a ton of community engagement, including with grass top stakeholders, so direct service providers, organizations in our community, as well as with focus groups with families to hear their thoughts about the different bonuses that would be provided, what the full mission and goal and values of the program was, to make sure that that was in alignment with meeting our family's best needs. So with that, through all that work came CollegeBound St. Paul, which is a universal college savings account that starts at birth. We provide a $50 seed deposit to jumpstart savings in a custodial savings account that we partner with Bremer Bank on. And it's an account where the children are named the beneficiary. That means families' benefits won't be impacted. And then it is designed to be universal eligibility, meaning for any child that's born January 1st and onward, or that moves into the city before their 6th birthday, is eligible for the program. So we have a majority of our participants that get enrolled through automatic enrollments that we get from birth records from our health department at the state. And then any children that move into the city or that don't have their birth records as public, they can manually enroll into the program using a form through an ambassador, a community partner, or any of the events that we host or that we attend. And the funds are made to be flexible so that it's, when we say college, it's anything after high school, meaning vocational school training, any other certificate programs. Even if somebody, if they want to become an entrepreneur, there's probably some training that they have to complete, so they'd be able to use it for that and or related expenses, which we know is sometimes where the greatest need is. So in terms of growing the account, we have the $50 seed deposit and then bonuses that help grow the account over time. And our bonuses are kind of in two different categories. The first is milestone bonuses, and that includes things like a first birthday bonus, which doesn't require the families to have to do anything. When we did a lot of our community engagement, the family said they didn't want their child to miss out on a bonus because they're not doing something. And so there'll be more of those milestone bonuses that will be developed over time as kids start school and onward as well. And then our other bonuses are mostly around engagement with the account and with the program. So For instance, as families are participating in programs and services related to their child's well-being or their family's financial health, they can get $50 for each of those, so up to $100 every single year for things that they're already doing. You know, if they're in WIC or any other program related to any of those two cornerstones, they can get up to $100 a year for those. And then we also have an equity bonus, which we provide to families that have been historically under-resourced, as well as for families that have to opt in, who have to take that additional step. They get a $50 bonus for that. Families are not required to open a new account, their own account, in order to add to their child's savings. They can just do it using either direct deposit or directly at Bremer Bank. So just by the numbers, of course, you know, we're 3 years old. So in the first 3 years of the program, we've been able to enroll over 9,500 children. Our oldest children right now are 3 years old. And then, of course, a majority of them are still babies. And that's about 72% of all babies that have been born in St. Paul since 2020. And we did recently, last fall, surpass $1 million in savings, which includes the seed deposits, the program bonuses, as well as the family savings. And our largest family savings right now, largest account, is over $6,500. And this heat map just shows where in our city our families live. So now talking a little bit about CollegeBound St. Paul in action. We are a program that's administered out of the city, but we really heavily rely on our community partners, like our ambassadors and our community organizations, as they are the ones that are in direct contact with families every day. They're the trusted sources. They have that rapport built with families. And so they truly are the backbone of our program and will continue to be and have been. And so with our community ambassadors, we have 29 ambassadors right now who help with outreach and engagement and helping get the word out, because we know that these are families, trusted sources of messengers. And then in addition to that, we also provide our community ambassadors professional development, as well as monthly stipends as a way to say thank you for your partnership. We have one of our strongest community partners, which is WIC, Women, Infant, and Children. And so we have been partnering with them anytime that a family gets referred by WIC, which CollegeBound St. Paul is included on their form. They refer lots of families on a monthly basis every single month. And so as families are in WIC, they get an additional $50 for that because it counts as a child wellness bonus. And then we have been working with WIC on helping families recertify at age 1, because we know that that's where it usually tends to fall off. And so in partnership with them, we're using CollegeBound St. Paul as a tool to help get the word out about the importance of continuing their participation in WIC and doing that well baby checkup. And so that's something that we're really excited about. We have an annual community baby shower that we do to help bring families together, get them enrolled, get them referred, pre-registered, as well as get families connected to resources around their child's well-being. And we've been partnering with our African American Babies Coalition, as well as our libraries, to have baby bag distributions that we've been doing. We've had these baby bags at libraries, at community organizations. And as you can see in the picture there, it has our I'm a CollegeBound baby onesie, as well as a bib and some toys, a little mirror, and then the stacking cups, and then also affirmations that are for parents as well as the babies. And then each bag also has a culturally specific book that we included in there that is about a specific cultural community, and oftentimes is also in their language. So that's something that we're really excited about. We have Money Action Day that we've hosted once, and we're in the plan of planning our next one, where families get an opportunity to attend workshops around budgeting, credit building, home ownership, retirement savings, and things related to their family's financial health, and then also getting connected to financial coaching if that's something that they're interested in. And then lastly on here, we've been working on an early childhood equitable action plan where we've been bringing partners together to identify some key priority areas to focus on for 0 to 3. And so for that group, we've prioritized access to high quality early learning and childcare, as well as increase the number of well baby checkups. So we have a number of strategies within those 2 areas that we've been working on. So that's a little bit about CollegeBound St. Paul in action. Now talking a little bit about the asset stream innovations that we've been working on. Our first one is our cross-sector partnership and funding, which has been a key part of our program since design. So we wanted to make sure that not only was it something that we paid attention to in design, but also during implementation and launch, as well as we talked about getting support for the program administration, assets into the children's accounts, and also some of the wraparound services related to child well-being and families' financial health strategies. So as you can see here, the people power, we have our ambassadors, we have our early childhood action team partners, as well as our financial health partners, and also our financial power, which is $18.5 million that we've raised for the sustainability of CollegeBound St. Paul for years to come, out of 35 million, which is our goal. And we have that campaign that we've been working on and will continue to work on. And we have over 26 institutional funders, so over 26 folks and organizations that have said that this is something that they believe in, for all of us to come together to let our families and children know that we believe in them and that we want to be there along their journey as they are thinking about achieving their greatest aspirations. So we have our city funding, which is about $500,000 each year to help cover staff and back office operations. And then we also have some state funding of a little over 2.75 million to support seed deposits, bonuses, outreach and engagement efforts, as well as strategies that are targeted in child well-being, as well as financial health strategies. And so for that, most of those fundings are from our Department of Education, which mostly has come through legislative appropriations, and then also our Department of Human Services, which is what helps provide some of the wraparound services in those 2 cornerstones that I mentioned. Our local foundations, corporate donors, and individual donors have also played a key role. So we have over 10 million of that we've raised and continue to have to help fund the day-to-day operations of the program, including some of the outreach engagement efforts and also the program bonuses. And we have a huge partnership with our St. Paul, Minnesota Foundation, who holds the fund for CollegeBound St. Paul. So as we raise dollars, it goes there. And then we at the city request it for some of those day-to-day operations. And these are really important because as we were designing the program, having buy-in from all of these cross-sector stakeholders was really important, because they will continue to make sure that this is a program that continues to be a bedrock in our community and will be sustainable for years to come. And so it's not like it's an initiative that's just by one person or one organization. It really is all of us coming together to make this happen for our families. So our second asset stream innovation is CollegeBound Boost, which is our second guaranteed income program that we're doing. So CollegeBound Boost is really about offering families an innovative combination of monthly guaranteed income that's directed to families, which I'll tell you more details about in a second, and also an additional $1,000 in their college savings account for their child to help make ends meet today, and also planning for the future. So we're partnering with the University of Michigan for that, and it's a demonstration that we have 3 groups in. We have 333 families that will receive the $500 per month for 24 months, plus the $1,000 in their child savings account. Group 2 will be receiving just $1,000, and then we have the control group, which will just be receiving the regular program bonuses that are provided with CollegeBound St. Paul, and we'll just continue to participate as that. And that's something that we're really excited about, and really excited about the learning that comes out of that. So that concludes our information about CollegeBound. Looking forward to discussion and hearing any questions that anybody has.
Thanks so much, Akram. Yeah, you've done an amazing job as well in St. Paul. I love how you've leveraged state funds and other funders at a high level. And of course, your leadership on marrying savings and guaranteed income is absolutely leading the field. So we really appreciate your leadership there. Now it's time for our Q&A session. And I want to thank all the speakers also. You were like right on time. So we're right on target for our Q&A session. So thank you so much for being so punctual with your presentations. I'm looking in the chat for questions. I'm not sure I've seen, let's see, let me check. Yeah, Megan, let's see. There were a couple questions about the recording, and that will be available after the webinar. It'll be posted on the AEDI website, so will be there for sure. While we're waiting for some additional questions to come in on the chat, let me maybe just take the prerogative of the moderator and just post a couple to the panelists while we're waiting. So one question I love, all of you or anyone, as you choose your input on this, is, a basic question about these different asset streams that you've all described. So why should other CSA programs be thinking about developing multiple streams of assets for the participants? What's the case for that? And why should others be really thinking about this and following the models you've developed here? And actually, I think Megan was going to bring all the speakers back up on the screen too for this Q&A. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Gotcha. So yeah, feel free to jump in. Yeah, why should other programs think about these kinds of asset streams you all have so carefully and creatively innovated on?
I'll jump in and just say, I think that, in addition to, of course, getting more assets into kids' accounts and more money, with college and career costs going up all the time, I think it's really powerful the way that, the community shows up for kids and just, I think for the family, from some of the qualitative research I've seen out there and some of the, the focus groups and interviews and things for CSAs, you see that families, they feel the support and the hope, knowing that there are people out there that that want their kid to succeed and go on and do things. So I think just the more cheerleaders on the sidelines, cheering the kids on, the better. That's, I guess, what I would say.
I mean, I'll just jump in. It's just money matters. I mean, if we were living in a different world, there's a lot that needs some repair here in this economic system. This is my personal point of view. And that you see that when people are working super hard and, the wages are what they are, and how can people actually build substantial assets? Now, I am such a believer and so excited about the fact that just by having a small dollar account, that makes such a difference. And of course, that is going to change the trajectory. And we've, the evidence from Oakland sounds so encouraging. Like you see the trajectory from, changing the trajectory of people's lives just by, again, having the small dollars between, under $3,000. But at the end of the day, we all live in this world. More money, provides choices. It provides choices for people.
And I'll just add on and say, like, the early award scholarships are something I know that this group and other folks on the webinar understand and believe in. I think what we're finding in Oakland is to get funders to understand that early award scholarships are just as important as, scholarships to our 12th graders has been something that is like we're on a journey with, because people want to know who they're funding. They want to know where their money is going. And there is that urgent need at the, post-secondary high school level. And so we're trying to bring funders along with that kind of balancing urgency and important, right? Like where are we actually putting in money earlier on? And so that has been a journey, I guess, we're working through for anybody on the call who's also going through that, and just if any funders have advice on how to do that.
I would agree with what you're saying. I think, and that's one of the unique positions, perhaps, with community foundations, because we do work with donors And donors come to us hoping and wanting to find the most impactful way to help the communities around them. And I know that all of you work with donors, but being able, through the research that Willie is doing, being able to demonstrate that we can serve the very same children you want to serve when they're in 4th grade instead of waiting until they're 18 years old. And we believe that we can positively influence their families and the children in a more impactful way than by waiting. It's a process. There are many folks that are convinced of, the traditional scholarship, and we just need to keep at it to show them that earlier is a better way. I would also add that we're aware, that there are significant scholarship funds, and that sometimes those funds are managed by bank trust departments, not community foundations, and that through bank mergers, often the funds are no longer available locally. And so that is a funding source if we can keep our eyes on them and attempt to keep them. We're all local, we're all working in our communities, and to keep those assets serving the individuals that donors originally wanted through those banks. It's a process for sure.
Thanks for those thoughts. It's really helpful. Just as a side note, Willie added me as being back from the sort of very early days of CSAs. But when we first launched this work in our initial seed demonstration, we just essentially had like initial deposits and matches and a few benchmark incentives. That's all we could think of. What you all have done is absolutely mind-blowing. The diversity and the sort of like creativity and the size of these different asset streams, as Willie calls them in his paper, just amazing. And certainly Willie speaks to your idea of like the scaffolding, right? So like we're finding ways to move different resources up through the scaffolding to help kids achieve their potential. So again, incredibly well done, super impressive, and just kind of so thought-provoking what you're all doing.
I'll jump in there real quick on the scholarship piece, if you don't mind, Carl.
Yeah.
It's narrative change, right? And that's kind of hard work. The traditional scholarship is just the way people have always thought about it, but there's a kind of tipping point. So on this webinar, we have at least 3 programs that are now in some form or fashion exploring kind of early scholarship awards. If those case studies if we can make sure that we get them out to other people. I know I had a conversation today with the senator in Michigan, and when they read the report, they reached out to me, and when they were able to see a couple of the case studies, it made a huge impact. I mean, I think it's actually going to have some help with this at the federal level. So my point is like the work you're doing is truly, it's eye-opening and popping, and we have to be willing to take these case studies and share them with other people. Take your stories and share them with other people so they can believe. One of the, and I'll be quiet, is one of the things we were trying to say in that report is like, a part of our challenge is just getting people to be able to imagine something different, right? It's very hard for people to look beyond what they do every day, what they know. And so you guys are providing some opportunity, some grounds for people to begin to think maybe something else is possible. Because when you talk to people, that's one of the biggest hurdles. It's just for them to be able to imagine that there might be some other way of doing this, right? And so I applaud all of you for providing different groups with some grounds for being able to imagine something different. And I'll stop there because I don't want to take up too much time.
Yeah, thanks, Willie. While we've been talking, we got a question in the chat, and keep those coming as you all are listening in. This is from Rachel Adams. The question is, what's the biggest roadblock to using 529 accounts, and how can 529 plans help make CSA programs easier to manage? Now, I know that 4 out of 5 of you have used the 529 system, so would love your thoughts on this question from Rachel.
I could jump in, and then I don't know if I'll say so. So one of the major pieces of this for New York City has been to work with our state 529 around, really in a very methodical way, or trying to be methodical around like the barriers for access to 529s. And it is hats off to our comptroller who has done some great work here. Though, when you look in 2014 and you look in some of the, lowest income neighborhoods in New York City, you had to find 6 classrooms that would have 1 kid with a 529 account. And if the 529 is the state vehicle for asset accumulation, I mean, then you look at the higher income places and it's like 1 out of 2 kids have these accounts. This is a major roadblock this is about the racial wealth gap. This is a reason why, this equity is not, that continues to be unequal, right? And so, what we have done with the state comptroller has been to get rid of initial minimum deposits, to make sure that the application is translated into Spanish. We think it should be translated into every language. We think it's a real problem that it is not translated into all the languages in New York City, and that is a real roadblock. We got them to eliminate the initial minimum contribution, deposit. But there's a lot more to do there. And so there are a lot of barriers to it, and it actually absolutely perpetuates serious access to capital markets and ongoing wealth accumulation.
Yeah, I'll say in Pennsylvania, we've done some similar things where we've removed the minimum to contribute, and you can now open an account without putting any funds in, just to get the account open. So also working on translations. I agree, those are definite needs. I think also, well, one thing that we've been working on, and we've talked before in some webinars about work with the organization Commonwealth and kind of piloting this idea of a savings pocket that could be attached to the 529 and work kind of in parallel, so that it's not either or, but as families save a little bit, they can reach their goal, and then any additional funds could go into the 529. So we're kind of exploring that idea with a pilot we hope to get underway soon. But I would just say, I think another big barrier is awareness. I think also, 529s, there are definitely real barriers like the ones Deborah Ellen just mentioned. I think also, 529s just kind of have this reputation as being only for the wealthy, and people don't know really what, that you can open one with no funds and contribute, just $1 at a time. So I think a lot of it is also about, continuing to spread the message and really, just challenge people's assumptions and say, no, you can do this.
I would add our program, because we require our participants to have a 529 in order to be able to earn the $1,000 in scholarships. We need to know and to be able to monitor who has the 529. And I think generally we can deal with populations that are somewhat suspicious of financial institutions. And what we can do as a local organization, we're in the schools, we've got an address, we have a phone number, we sit with these folks in church and see them at the grocery store. And so we can help to overcome, because we're locally driven, we can help to overcome some of that suspicion. But then we find that we need to be still supported by a state agency that understandably is very cautious about controlling the data and sharing information. So I think there's some work to be done in dealing with the 529 in terms of supporting grassroots efforts to get the information regarding who's saving and who's enrolled, in order to empower us to further develop the funds and the accounts.
I just flag one thing, and there's other people who will know much more about this than I do, but like where sort of just this idea that the transparency around who is using 529 accounts, and I think Pennsylvania has done some great work on this. I'm not sure, you can speak to it, around knowing, who and what neighborhoods have access. And so making that clear and who is benefiting from this tool could be also something that is worth, and I know others in the field have, I'm sure, thought of this previously, but it feels like something that could really help move all this forward.
Yeah, definitely. We are tracking that, what we call the penetration rate, looking at how many families with kids under age 18 have accounts, and in what, in each county, looking at that, the breakdown in different ways. We don't have good income data on families, so that's something that kind of holds us back in really understanding. But we do, really focus a lot of our outreach on communities that traditionally haven't been served by the 529. So, the rural communities also is a big one for us, but just looking at, traditionally, zip codes that are, low wealth. So it's a constant trying to, look at the data and do our best estimate as well, because we don't have that granular information at the family level.
Did you want to jump in, Vina, or you just had that in the chat?
Yeah, I just wanted to lift that up. It's not something that 529 specifically can address, but we've explored partnerships with, a local credit union to support our undocumented families to open up savings accounts for college. We don't call them college savings accounts. We feel like the 529 language gets kind of murky when you do that. So we say savings accounts for college, but just the access for undocumented families or families who don't want to provide a tax ID is very limited too.
Thank you all for those good answers and honest answers about the 529 system, which is not perfect, but has proven to be a really helpful platform for so many CSA programs. And actually, last year, I did a research project for Ann and her colleagues in the National Association of State Treasurers in the College Savings Plan Network. There was a 50-state survey of 529 plans. And actually, as Ann is saying, I think there's this reputation that's for wealthy people, but the truth is a lot of states are doing a lot of work to improve accessibility and increase the incentives for families to save in 529 plans. And we actually added up, it's almost like $50 million a year in various incentives that the various state plans are providing to encourage families to save in their plans. So I think there's a lot of innovative and committed work going on at that level to make these plans easier for families to access. So thanks to Ann and her colleagues and everyone else in the 529 world. We've had a couple other questions come in the chat. Let me jump into that. Let's see. So miss anything? Yeah, this one's from Jason Callahan. Did I hear correctly that part of the funding source in St. Paul was coming from the Department of Education? I'm curious to hear about movement or discussions around state vision of using CSA funding as a college or in career or educational attainment strategy. So Ikram, if you'd respond to that, then anybody else has thoughts about sort of funding from the education community or departments?
Yeah, so for our program, any of the dollars that have come through the Department of Education have all been, like the first round, it was through legislation. And so, and then we also have had some additional dollars now to help support some of the wraparound services, which are also from MDE. And so with that, the strategy around college, career, and educational attainment is a big part of that strategy. We've had some conversations around what a potential statewide model would be for us here in Minnesota. And so a lot of that is connected to educational attainment and also some of the things around like financial insecurity and families that are experiencing that, and how do we use some of the wraparound work that's being done to help support families get connected to some of the additional financial health resources. And we have a lot of great organizations that are doing that work. A lot of the times it's just being able to make those connections for the families and also helping to build scale in partnership with some of these organizations. And so that is definitely a big part of the conversation. And then the other department that I mentioned was the Department of Human Services, and the state funding for that is specifically targeted around the wraparound services on child well-being, financial health, and also targeted to our Black and Brown communities in St. Paul.
Thanks. Any other thoughts on that question? If not, we also had a question from Patrick from the National League of Cities. Hey, Patrick. Good to see you on the webinar. Can any of the panelists confirm if they are using state TANF dollars to support their work?
We are not.
Yeah, we are not either. It's come up in conversations with some of the county folks that we've talked to as maybe a future strategy, but nothing that's been implemented.
And is that, I'm just curious also for the panelists, is that sort of is that like a strategic choice not to sort of go to funds that are used? I mean, this gets back to Willie's conversation about income and assets. I mean, obviously TANF is limited dollars for families in great need to provide cash assistance. So is your decisions more strategic, or is it simply is this not a sort of like stream you thought about or have any kind of as many connections to? I'm just kind of curious if that's again, strategy or simply just hasn't happened.
For us, it just hasn't happened. I think it might be a potential, like I said, but we just haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, same. I think it just it hasn't come up, but yeah, I mean, I think the idea, if we were to do something like that or with any other benefit, you know, we would want to you know, be additive and not necessarily redirect funds that are needed for something, but rather kind of see if we could leverage that to get additional funds from a source, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
I will quickly say that, like, in a lot of those, so first of all, there are some programs using ARP money, which is different. But my point is that there is, so Washtenaw County is funding their CSA program through their American Rescue Plan Fund. And I would also say that there are oftentimes policies where money is allocated each year, but the money is not being spent each year at the end of the year. So it's money for foster care youth is one of the cases. They have all this money allocated to them, but a lot of it's not spent. And so there has been discussions around reallocating some of that money towards these children's savings accounts or other things like that. So that's another way that we can explore. Again, this is, even because something hasn't been done doesn't mean it shouldn't be done or can't be done. We really want you to think outside the box on what might be other asset streams that we can bring into it.
Well, we're waiting on other questions to come in. Let me just throw another one out towards you. Is there anything that, like, what else should folks be thinking about, or anything else they should know as they're thinking about different asset streams? We talked about some of the messaging challenges, right? Some of the sort of getting funders on board, some of the, like, I think we talked about data as well. But what should folks also be thinking about as they're thinking about and working on developing additional asset streams?
I guess another way of saying it is, what's your next best ideas, panel?
I think for us, obviously CollegeBound Boost is something that we're really excited about. We're in the process of getting all of our families enrolled, and we're almost at the end with that. And we are hoping that maybe in the future that might be something that we might be able to scale, but just a combination of providing families dollars that they can use now to help meet their needs, in addition to the additional dollars that they're getting in their child's account to help plan for their child's future education, is really powerful, and we think is a simple and really effective way. And so I would say that that's kind of the thing that's most top of mind for us, and then also just learning about all of the learning that's going to come out of that demonstration in the future.
I'm not sure if it's the next best idea, but I would want anybody that's entertaining this work to think about starting small. All of these programs are really impressive, and we've been operating for a while, so we've had the opportunity to iterate and to expand. And I don't think it's a lack of ambition to potentially start small, see what works, and then start to build it out from that. I also think that in addition to funding streams, there's just, I'm going to say again, a local influence I think is really important, and we shouldn't overlook faith-based organizations and all the other philanthropy groups and public schools as a way of partnering, as a way of building trust. And when we do that, then it does open up new funding streams. To not silo our program, but to really saturate it across our location, I think is really important to generating new ideas, to finding new funding sources, and above all, to develop trust with the very populations we're trying to serve.
Patty, I'll jump in there because you're really making me think of a tension that we have here. Obviously, New York City is super large. There's tremendous need. There's also tremendous diversity. And so when we talked about community scholarships, one of the purposes of community scholarships is to figure out how can we get as much money as possible into the accounts of sets of folks who have been historically excluded in communities to really build that capital stack. Another important part of community scholarships, which may kind of turn out different, is, for communities to have ownership and to figure out how they can plug into this. And then, so one of the things that NYC Kids Rise, we're a separate nonprofit, we are, and figuring out how to operate now with having grown very quickly is, our resource allocation to support someone like Ms. Colger from the Astoria Houses Resident Association to work to raise $1,000 in every child's account in Astoria Houses. That's a lot of money, $1,000. Another example, so that's one thing, but it still took a lot of time. We worked with her because part of it is how do you bring everyone on board under her leadership and we have all this technical information that unfortunately is needed in these situations. Another example of Bishop Taylor and Reverend Mason, they did a concert for college. They were two pastors in Long Island City and Astoria. They worked together. The Long Island City high school concert was filled, 1,000 people pre-COVID. The tickets, I think, were $20 a ticket. And it was the community coming together with gospel acts to support College for Concert, Concert for College. Each child from that in the public school community, who lived in public housing in the surrounding schools, got another $18.86 in their accounts. Now, Bishop Taylor and Reverend Mason did the heavy lifting there. It was unbelievable, and this may be even more impactful, who knows, than the $1,000 in each of the accounts, that $18.86. But the amount of work and effort required to kind of as this backbone, because how technical all this stuff is, it requires a lot. And so that's something just to think about and I'm sure like everyone else on this panel has had to make some of these choices. Are you spending your time trying to raise the big bucks, trying to tap into like passive income streams over time? Or how are you kind of continuing to support community to kind of raise additional money? And it has to be both, but it's complicated.
And I think, Deborah, sorry, Carl.
No, go ahead, Vina.
I was going to say, I feel like in New York City Kids Rise, this is, I guess, not something we've talked about Oakland Promise officially. So this is more me kind of like over the years thinking about this, but that you all give scholarships to students who go to like a dental visit or something in that vein. I remember coming across a program who did that. I don't know if it's New York City Kids Rise. No. Okay. But thinking in that vein and this idea of community scholarships, but again, don't know if this is the next great idea, but in conversation of like how to involve community, thinking about general wellness, I guess, and how we tie scholarships and funding to the whole child and general wellness. So, pediatric visits, for example, incentivizing pediatric visits, incentivizing dental exams, and how to have the community be a part of that. And when we know that right now our middle high school students are struggling with mental health and understanding what is our role in supporting those like wellness services. So balancing those like immediate needs with kind of this longer term strategy around providing CSAs. But I know I didn't say that super eloquently, but that's kind of what's in my head right now of like how we do that as a community, because we have just so many nonprofits and organizations and institutions doing this work who all would support the work if we knew how to best do that. So coordination of services, et cetera, there's so much to be done.
Yeah, great comment. And again, Deborah Allen, we've talked a lot here about different ideas, but you completely have unleashed, the community and fundraising for New York City Kids Horizon, and then the work that Ms. Koger did for the Astoria residents there and the Astoria houses is again like mind blowing. So well done there. I think Willie had one last comment, and Willie, I know we're getting close to time, so I'll let you have the last comment or question if you'd like.
I just wanted to follow up on this piece of line of thought is don't be afraid of getting outside of our normal networks. So quick example, in Washtenaw County in Michigan, we spent maybe 2 years talking to them and trying to find, thinking about, who would fund this, who would do this, that kind of thing. And then we brought in the county financial person who does all the finances for the county. And they're the ones that really brought up the idea that, hey, we could use ARP money for funding this program. And ended up putting $7 million to, I mean, and people come to me all the time and ask me my opinion about stuff, but that never came into my mind, right? I mean, it wasn't on my radar. It wasn't in my skill set to do that. One more quick example that didn't come to fruition, but there was something about it. In Pennsylvania, we were talking with a group who had this policy, had this money that they were taking from, and then all of a sudden I'm drawing a blank, but it had money in a policy that was every time a contract was initiated with the state, they would take maybe 5% of that and put it back for kids who were in high incarceration areas. Anyhow, and so we had a pretty detailed discussion with them about moving that money into a CSA at some point, right? And I don't want to give names and all the specifics of that because it never came to fruition, but we were real close to making that work. And so my point is just that you don't know quite where, like if we only rely on this group to kind of come up with ideas and you don't kind of reach outside of your bubble and try to find others, like there's ways of doing this that just have not come into our minds yet. And so bringing in some new ideas, some new people sometimes might be very useful to you and being purposeful about that. That's kind of my comment on that. I think Ann might have had something to say.
No, you said it. I was just going to mention, it was a percentage of contracts that were coming into a certain state agency, but I'm not sure. I guess there weren't any contracts high enough to meet the threshold. They had to be a certain amount, I believe. So yeah, we'll keep noodling and hoping something works out soon.
Well, Willie, thanks. That's a great sort of like comment to leave us with, to think outside the box and all the stuff we're doing, fundraising as well as other stuff. Let's close down then. Let me thank the panelists, first of all, for your amazing presentations and these sort of thoughtful responses during Q&A. Willie and your colleagues at the University of Michigan, thanks for sponsoring this and getting us together. It's always, as Patty said, it's always great to get together as a field. There's always so much to share and knowledge we can bring to one another. And then thanks to the folks who are listening in online across the country. Keep up the good work and look out for those next couple of case studies coming from Willie and his colleagues in Michigan.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great one.